Hi there, Nachum. I'm Rabbi Nachum Meth. As we get ready for the high holidays, I'm reminded by an idea that the great Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, one of the great Jewish thinkers, Musar ethicists, one of the great Jewish philosophers, one of the ideas that he would always share leading up to the high holidays, leading up to Rosh Hashanah, leading up to Yom Kippur. You know, this time of year, it's all about change. It's all about self-improvement. And when he would talk to people about self-improvement, he would always stress focus on little things, dvarim ketanim, small improvements and small change. I want to develop that idea and maybe explore some of the reasons and some of the practical ways that we can utilize this idea of small change and to really explore how small changes can often really lead to really great results. And I want to begin by telling you an amazing story. It's the story of the pistachio. I don't know about you, lots of people love pistachios. I happen to not be a big pistachio eater myself. However, the pistachio industry in the United States, it's huge. It's over $1 billion of pistachios consumed every single year. It's a gigantic market. But the truth of the matter is, it didn't always used to be like that. Pistachios are a very finicky seed to grow. They're actually not nuts, they're seeds. They grow on trees. They're very difficult to grow. As a matter of fact, pistachios are indigenous to Iran, very specific region in Iran that has a very hot desert, very hot in the summer, allowing the pistachio tree to grow deep roots down into the soil with very large leaves, but it needs to have very cool winters, and the soil needs to be a very specific type of salinity. It takes years, if not decades, for pistachios to start bearing the seeds. Very finicky to grow. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't be to the late 70s. Up until that point, pistachios were virtually all grown in Iran and imported to the United States. If you remember, if you're as old as I am, you'll remember pistachios coming in those little bags and they used to be painted red. The reason they used to paint them red is to cover up all the imperfections. It wouldn't be until the 80s and 90s that the United States pistachio industry really took off. And the story of the pistachios here in the United States is a remarkable story. As I mentioned, they're very finicky to grow. They only naturally or indigenously grow in Iran. It was in the late 20s, the USDA sent a fellow named William Whitehouse to go to Iran to really study the botany and all the agricultural elements that go into growing pistachios. And the story of what he came up with is astounding. But I want to share, before I tell you that story, I want to share a remarkable lesson that we find in the Torah. The Torah tells us the Jews, when they would go into battle, when they would go to wage war against their enemies, when the Jewish people would go against their enemies and they would go to war, and they would be preparing for battle, and they would see horses, they would see chariots, a nation stronger, greater than you. They've got missiles, they got tanks, they got all sorts of scary things to fight and wage war against you. And the Torah says, Lo sira mehem, don't be afraid of them. Ki Hashem Elokecha, for it is the Lord your God, imach, he is with you. Hamalach HaMeretz Mitzrayim, he's the one that took you out of the land of Egypt. V'haya ki karavachem ala milchama, and it would take place when they would actually be prepared for battle, when they were about to actually go to war. One of the Kohanim, the priest, would come before the army and he would inspire them. And this was the motivation, this was the speech that he would tell them. V'amar alayim, this Kohen, this priest, he would tell them, Shema Yisrael, hear O Israel, Atem krevim hayom l'melchama, you're coming close today to do war, alayveichem, against your enemies, Al yirach levavchem, do not be afraid. Al tiro, don't be scared. And he would motivate them. God is with you. Don't be scared. Have courage. You're going to do great and you're going to win. Rashi, if you noted, picks up on a very familiar phrase that this Kohen, that this priest, when he would begin his speech to motivate and inspire the army, did you catch that very familiar phrase? Shema Yisrael, hear O Israel. And Rashi points out that language of Shema Yisrael, hear O Israel, it's not by mistake. Rashi says this is an allusion. He explains, Afilu ein bachem zechus ela kriyas shema bilvad. The Kohen was alluding to this message that he was telling the Jews, even if the only merit, the only mitzvah, the only zechus that you have is that you recited the Shema, kidai atem sheyoshia eschem. That, the Kohen is telling us, that's enough of a merit, it's enough of a mitzvah, it's enough of a zechus for God to provide you with divine protection. If all you've done is recited the Shema, says the Kohen, Rashi is explaining, that's enough to provide protection against your enemies as you go to battle. What an amazing lesson. What an inspiring Rashi. What a remarkable idea. And I want to unpack it by continuing and concluding the story of the pistachio. Our friend William Whitehouse, 1929, he goes to Iran, learns everything there is to know about pistachios. He brings back with him a bag full of pistachio seeds, and he begins to plant them. They located the Imperial Valley in California. They decided that's the perfect place to try to grow pistachios in the United States. Very similar soil to that is in Iran. Hot, high desert. It's in the summer, it's nice and hot, cool in the winter. They thought it would be the perfect place. And he began planting seed after seed after seed. As a matter of fact, he planted more than 3,000 seeds. 3,000 seeds he plants. Every single one of them failed. Not one of them grew except for one. One plant grew. Out of all 3,000, 2,999 failed. One of them, it grew. It took hold. And guess what happened? He took that tree after a couple of years after it began to bear fruit, and he planted more trees and more trees and more trees. Fast forward till today, the year 2025 is when this recording has taken place. Every pistachio in the United States of America is traceable back to that one successful plant, that one seed that William Whitehouse planted in 1929. That's remarkable. And I think there are really three remarkable and inspiring lessons that we can take from the story of the pistachio and really that message that Rashi is teaching us. Rashi is, number one, telling us such an important idea. We talk about the power of a mitzvah. You said Shema. It's one little mitzvah. What's the big deal? We all do a mitzvah here, a mitzvah there. What's the big deal? We so often undervalue what it means to do one small mitzvah. We talk about how Rabbi Salanter said that during this time of year, as we get ready for Elul, we get ready for the high holidays, for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, he suggested focusing on small things. I speculate, one of the messages he's teaching us, there's no such thing as small things. One little mitzvah, that could change the world. Don't believe me? Go ask William Whitehouse. One seed. One pistachio, and look what happened. Look at the effect that it had. Every pistachio that you eat nowadays comes from that one seed. Billions of dollars every year traceable to one seed. You do one mitzvah, you recite Shema one time, and it's enough of a zechus, it's enough of a merit, says Rashi, to protect the Jewish people from our enemies. If we do one mitzvah, if we're going to decide, you know what, maybe that mitzvah that I'm going to do this year, maybe it's something as small as I'm going to make sure that I recite the Shema every morning and every evening. I'm going to be careful to recite the Shema. Well, guess what? You might be saving lives. You might be providing protection for the Jewish people, for our brothers and sisters who are in harm's way. One small mitzvah can have tremendous power and a tremendous effect, much like one seed can change the world. But I think there's a second lesson there as well, another idea that we really need to be inspired by. Imagine you're William Whitehouse and you're planting seed after seed after seed, and look how many failures, look how many seeds didn't take root. Look how many times he failed. 2,999 failures. So often we look in the mirror and we try to think about changing and improving as we get ready for the high holidays. We've done this year after year, and we try to improve and try to take on new commitments and try to become better people, and we fail again, and we fail a third time, and we can be discouraged. And William Whitehouse will tell you that's great. I failed 2,999 times and I only succeeded one time. One pistachio seed, that was successful, and I changed the world. We have to remind ourselves, doing mitzvahs, improvement, we're not aiming for perfection. Small changes have huge impact. And even if we are discouraged, and even if we see so many failures and so many shortcomings, that shouldn't be discouraging to us. So many people, they'll tell you, the statistics tell us that, you look at New Year's resolutions. Do you know what the success rate, do you know how many people fail when it comes to their New Year's resolutions? More than 80%, the statistics show, of New Year's resolutions fail. And you know what I say back to that? That's great, but 20% of them are successful. We have to be encouraged and stay motivated, and it's okay if we make mistakes and we're not perfect. Let's look at the bright side. Let's remind ourselves, one mitzvah could change the world. One mitzvah can provide protection for all the Jewish people. One pistachio seed can really change the entire industry, even though 2,999 of them fail. But there's a third lesson, a third idea of inspiration. Imagine you get into a time machine and you go back to 1929 as William Whitehouse is planting that one seed that's going to be successful. Imagine if you were to tap him on the shoulder and you'd say, hey, I'm a time traveler. I come from more than 100 years later, and I want to let you know that one seed, all the other ones are going to fail, but that one seed, fast forward almost 100 years from now, it's going to produce so many pistachios, it's going to be $1 billion a year industry. What do you think William Whitehouse would have said? I suspect he would have looked at you and said, I don't believe you. There's no way. It's impossible. And he would have been wrong and you would have been right. It's so easy for us as we are doing these small mitzvahs. We say a Shema. We do one small good deed. We're kind to someone else. We don't appreciate just how valuable, just how significant that act is. Whitehouse, I am sure, did not realize as he was planting that one pistachio that he was changing the world, but he was. And we need to stay motivated and we need to stay inspired every time we do a mitzvah, every time we do something, even if it's tiny, it's small. I just planted one seed. What's the big deal? You've changed the world, and we need to keep ourselves motivated and inspired. Small things, small mitzvahs, that's what we need to be focused on. I want to talk to you now about this idea of small changes, and maybe let's explore it with a little bit more detail. When we talk about small changes, small mitzvahs, small things that can make a big difference, I think we need to go a little deeper. There's a great book. It's a really, really incredible book. I read it. First few times I read it, I did not think it was that great, and I read it after a few times. I really do think it's really a transformative book. It's a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. Maybe you've read it. He really explores this idea of how small things can really make a big difference. And I want to share some of his insights and maybe give them a Torah perspective. Because you see, when we talk about doing small things, small changes, small improvements, we need to realize, number one, even if we just do one mitzvah, one Shema, one good deed, in and of itself, it's tremendously valuable, and we should never sell that short. Go ask William Whitehouse. But at the same time, imagine if we can take some small deeds, small, easy activities or behavioral changes. Oftentimes, small things, if we use wisdom, they can be leveraged for big results. It's very often that it's really small, teeny things, which are much more manageable and much more doable. They often, if we use a little bit of wisdom and a little bit of inspiration, you'll see if we stack them one upon another, they can actually lead to tremendous results in so many areas of our lives. And I want to go through some of those right now. There's an amazing passage by the great Maharal of Prague, and he tells us, he quotes a medrash. He says, you know what, according to one of the opinions in the medrash, you know what the most significant verses in the entire Torah is? It's the idea of es hakeves hachad taseh baboker, es hakeves hasheni taseh ben ha'arbaim. There was the sheep the lamb that was brought in the morning and that was brought in the afternoon. It was the karban tamid. There was a daily sacrifice that was brought in the temple, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Says the Maharal, according to one opinion in the Medrash, it's the most significant verses in the Torah. And the Maharal points out, that's unusual. I'm sure the karban tamid, the daily sacrifice, the daily offering in the temple on the Beis Hamikdash, I'm sure it was a wonderful thing. We don't have that anymore nowadays. And I'm sure had we been there, it would have been amazing. But it's really hard to imagine. Compared to the other 612 mitzvahs in the Torah, really, that's the most significant? But there really is a very profound lesson. James Clear in his book talks about the idea of, let's use it as an example, of going to the gym. We all have goals. I want to go to the gym. I want to be healthy. I want to be, get fit and get into shape. And so often what we do is we go to the gym and we're going to go for an hour a day, and we go and we don't have the right technique. We get burnt out. We're too tired. It's exhausting. I don't have the time. And we have this vision, this dream that I'm going to go work out in the gym an hour a day. And we never are able to meet that goal. We're never able to make that change. Because it's so hard. There are 1,000,001 reasons why we don't do that. But he tells a story. There's a story of a fellow that he knows that he lost something like 100 pounds. And the way he did it is for the first 6 weeks, he went to the gym for 2 minutes a day. 2 minutes a day. And he calls this idea the 2-minute rule. There are many things in our lives that we can really reduce it to a very, very small and compact habit. We could do it in 2 minutes. Now, I know what you're asking. Rabbi, if I go to the gym for 2 minutes a day for the rest of my life, I'm sure it's good, but I ain't losing 100 pounds. And of course, you're right. If you go to the gym for 2 minutes a day, it's not really going to get you the results that you want. However, there's something very, very, very profound over here. When we talk about a person who goes to the gym and loses 100 pounds because he goes for an hour a day, we have to really break that down into two separate components. And this is really critical, in my opinion. There's standardization, and then there's optimization. Standardization and optimization. You need to standardize certain behaviors. Going to the gym every day after day, going to the gym. There's a second component, which is optimization. I need to make sure that while I'm at the gym every day, I'm doing the right exercises. I've got the right form. I've got the right technique. I'm staying long enough. I'm doing everything right. But if we really think about it, those are two separate skills. Standardize, then optimize. That's a really important lesson. If we ever want to achieve real success and real change, very often one of the most important and helpful tools is to remember, standardize and then optimize. First, worry about making it part of my daily routine. Don't worry about exercising an hour a day. Worry about making sure I exercise every day, even if it's just 2 minutes. Practice that skill of standardizing exercise. Do that for 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, you'll have the routine, you'll have the pattern, you'll have that as part of your life. I go to the gym every day. Once you've developed that fluid motion and that routine and that regularity, after that point, now you can start worrying about optimizing. Make sure you have the right technique. Am I going long enough? Am I doing the right exercises? That's a second skill set. Worry about that later. First, worry about standardizing. And oftentimes, the easiest way to do it is reduce it to 2 minutes. James Clear points out, and I think it's very smart, you know what the heaviest thing to lift in the gym is? The front door. What separates people who are really into fitness and people who aren't? It's the people who show up. Do you open the front door and get in? Don't worry about if you're lifting the right thing, lifting the wrong thing. Do it 2 minutes a day. Do 2 push-ups a day. It's not just about our health, it's about so many other areas, our spirituality. Person wants to be a big Talmid Chacham. I want to be a big Torah scholar. And they look and they say, look, I don't have the skill set. I don't have the background. That's great. Study for 2 minutes a day. Do that consistently. Make that standardized. Later, you'll worry about optimizing. It's such a profound idea. There's a second lesson and a second thing we need to be looking for when we're looking for small changes. It's the idea of identity. There's a powerful message and a powerful Rashi. We know the story of Korach. He's one of the great villains in the history of the Jewish people. He rebels against the Jewish people. He's a traitor. He's a villain. And we find, the Torah tells us, the commentaries explain, he was jealous. He was envious against Moshe Rabbeinu, against Moses. He had so many negative emotions. And it seems that with all of his negative emotion, with all of his anger, with all of his jealousy, with all of his envy, he would not have rebelled until Rashi tells us, Lokach es atzmo lios nechlak aleihem. He removed himself, not physically, but emotionally and with his identity. He no longer identified with the Jewish people. It's the first words of the story of Korach is that it tells us by Yikach. He takes himself. And the Torah doesn't say, what does he take? And Rashi explains he took his identity. He no longer identified with the Jewish people. So long that he mentally identified with the Jewish people, he would not rebel. It's a very powerful idea. Identities are very, very, very powerful. James Clear tells a beautiful story. There was a fellow who struggled with smoking. He tried quitting 100 times, and he would quit, and someone would offer him a cigarette, and he would say, no, thank you, I don't smoke. And then, of course, what happens? 2 days later, he finds himself smoking again. And this happened time after time after time. And the fellow said one time, a fellow offers him a cigarette, and he said, no, thank you, I'm not a smoker. He said he never smoked a cigarette ever again. Our identities are very powerful things. The problem is, the challenge is we actually have to do things to reinforce our identities. If I smoke every day and I say, no thank you, I'm not a smoker, I'm being delusional. But if I'm the type of person where my behaviors, even if they're minimal, they give evidence to the fact that I really do fit into that category, I now might view myself in a different light. Let's say I'm the type of person, I exercise for 2 minutes a day, but I actually do exercise for 2 minutes a day. Aside from the fact that I'm standardizing and hopefully tomorrow I'll optimize, I also now mentally have cast a vote for myself that I'm the type of person that's health conscious. I'm the type of person that exercises every day. I'm an exerciser. And that identity can be leveraged for tremendous change. Let's say you decide this year, I'm going to recite Shema. every day. That now means I'm a person that's connected to God. I'm a type of person, I pray every day. Now, strictly speaking, just saying Shema in the morning and the evening, not a very big mitzvah, not very long. It's 30 seconds, 2 minutes, very small. But it changes my identity. We have to look for small things, small changes that we can use to leverage, that we can use to cast votes on who we are. And when we change our identities, we can become very, very, very different people. There's a third idea we should all be thinking about when we're talking about small changes. It's an interesting thing. The Torah tells us you're not allowed to use weights that are mislabeled. If you have a pound and it's labeled as a pound, it better be a pound when you're using it for buying and selling, for merchandise. If it's 0.99 of a pound, you're not allowed to use it. Of course, it's theft. But the Torah, if you read it carefully, the Torah says you're not allowed to even own it in your possession. And the Sefer HaChinuch tells us why. The prohibition is not just, of course you're not allowed to cheat, even owning a misweighted, mislabeled weight is prohibited because you might tomorrow end up using it. And there's a profound lesson here. Our environments really shape our behavior. If all of the weights in your house are properly labeled, so you're never going to come to the possibility of transgressing, of ripping someone off. But if you have a mislabeled weight, maybe today you're fine, but maybe tomorrow you'll be tempted. And the Torah is telling us, don't keep dangerous things around your house. Don't keep the mislabeled weight. That is an environmental problem. We need to start thinking about that when we think about changes. Oftentimes, shaping our environment is a very easy thing to do. Let's say I'm trying to lose weight. Guess what? It's very hard if you've got a ton of candy bars in your kitchen. It's very hard to have the willpower not to eat those candy bars. But you know what is very easy to do? Don't bring the candy bars into your house in the first place. This is an idea that we can use for weight loss, for our health, but it's true with our spirituality as well. If we got things that are in our house that we're not proud of, that we know can be really tempting, don't bring them in the first place. If we want to make sure we're studying more Torah, well, have a lot of books lying around. That'll be really helpful. We've got to shape our environment. And fourthly, a really important idea, small changes, is let's leverage the power of our friends. The prophet tells us, Tov hashnayim min ha'echad, 2 people are more powerful than just one person. Let's leverage our friends with small changes that can really provide huge results. Let's go back to our example of being a more healthy person. You want to make sure you exercise every day. It's one thing to, I'll put it in my calendar from 5 p.m. That's exercise time. You know what's a much better chance of you to make sure that you exercise is you call your buddy and you say, hey, let's exercise together. Because now you made up to exercise with your next door neighbor. If you don't show up, you know what you are? You're a jerk. Of course you're going to show up because you committed, you used your friend, you committed with your friend. We could do that with our spirituality as well. There are so many great programs out there that we can use. Partners in Torah, where I'm going to learn 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes a week with somebody else. Now I've leveraged my friends to make sure that I show up, to make sure that I'm engaged. There are so many ways that we can leverage the people around us to really ensure that we're achieving great results, even though we just did small changes, small improvements. Let's take these ideas. Let's take the message of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, small changes. Let's take that message that Rashi says, just saying Shema Yisrael, it could provide protection and safety for all of the Jewish people. And please God, if we focus on the small things, please God, we should be blessed with a happy and healthy, sweet new year.